Before we deep dive into our second project, why don't we also take a look at the conditional rendering in the JSX? And we technically could have covered this all the way in the beginning. However, I do find it a little bit more useful as we have more information about the React. That would be number one. And number two, when we can actually implement it with some kind of button clicks, because I think it's going to be much more interesting. So for this, what I would like to do is get rid of this handle delete. So I don't want to delete the item because I have kind of a very limited real estate here. So we might as well just work with whatever items we have. So we're going to delete both of these things. And then we're going to set up a new button. Then again, we're going to say button. Now for the button, again, we're going to have some type. Type is going to be button. So let's make sure we do that. And then we're going to have some kind of on click. So for in this case, let's write on click. And now we're going to be setting up this function. We haven't set up anything, of course, yet, but we're going to have, like, say, some kind of handle info. And you'll see why we're calling this that way. So we're going to say, okay, so there's going to be a function. I'm going to call this handle info or toggle info. Doesn't really matter. And then we're not going to pass any kind of parameters here or any arguments. And we're just going to be working with the state. And what I would like to right now set it up in a state is the show info variable. So I'm going to say there's going to be a variable by the name of show info. And by default, right away, this is going to be true. So that's going to be my setup. And then I would like to toggle this as I'm clicking this button. So why don't we set it up with the handle info? Why don't we see handle info? That's going to be the name of my function. And obviously, in this case, I do need to add this dot. So now I'm going to be working with this info. And here we're going to say toggle info. And so far we have the button. It's going to be toggling the info. Why are we working with right now these methods as well as here in the state? Well, what I'm trying to show you is that what happens as you're working with JSX and if you would like to have some kind of conditional statements. Because the issue is very simple here. So let's say that we have the show info is true currently at the state. And let's imagine that there's some kind of paragraph here. And within the paragraph, I would just like to show this paragraph if the value is going to be equal to true. Well, how you do this normal in JavaScript? Since you are thinking probably, well, I have the curly braces, so I have the JavaScript. So why don't we try it out? Why don't I say if, and then we're going to be looking for this dot state, and then we're going to be looking for show info. The issue is that this is not going to be an expression. And if you remember correctly, we cannot run something here that is not an expression. So we always need to return some kind of value. And if statements are not going to be allowed. So we're going to have to come up with some creative ways how we can avoid that. And don't worry, there's three of them that we're going to look at, as well as later on, as we're going to be working with the project, there's actually going to be a fourth one, which in my opinion is even a little bit more interesting, meaning that that is going to deal basically with this whole thing, with this whole return. And that's why I'm saying that this is going to be a little bit more interesting. These ones, we're just dealing with specific info. Let's say some kind of paragraph, some kind of heading force. The fourth one that we're going to look at in the project is going to deal with whole book or whole component, something like that. Okay. Here, what would be our choices? Well, we can start with a conditional rendering. However, for conditional rendering, what do we have? Well, we have a setup where we have and. So if we have two ands, then basically that next thing is going to be shown. Also, we have an option of ternary operator, as well as we can have the separate function. So why don't we start with an and? So how the and is going to work? Well, first of all, I can say like this. I'm going to say that I'm going to be checking the value in a state. This dot state show info. And if I'm going to say and now if the value is going to be true, then I would like to render here the paragraph. So in this case, this is going to be my return. So I'm going to say like lorem, and in this case, this is going to be 20. So now let's see what would happen. The moment we show it, obviously this is going to be showing. So the paragraph is showing because the value in the state for the show if info is true. But what if we were going to change this? What if I'm going to say something like this? Now all the paragraphs are not going to be shown because this only works if this value is true. So if this value is going to be true, the first one, then the second one is going to be returned. However, if this is going to be false, then nothing. Nothing is going to be shown. All right, so that would be our first one. That would be and. And you know what? Since I want you to keep the reference, I will gonna comment this out, and then we're gonna continue. And now we're gonna look at the ternary operator. So how the ternary operator is gonna work? First of all, why don't we set it up this with the button, like I said before? So why don't we go here and we're gonna say that we will gonna be looking for this dot set state, and then within the state we would want to have the show info value. However, since I would want to toggle it, I'm going to set it up like this. I'm going to say whatever value you have right now in this dot state show info, give me the opposite. So if by default this is going to be true, the moment we're going to press it, then the value is going to turn false, as well as if we're going to have it as a false, then we're going to turn it back to a true. So that's the idea how we're going to be working with this. So we right now have this toggle info. And by the way, we can check it out again in the Google developer tools. So we can say inspect or React developer tools. We can say like this. So we're going to be looking for the React. And then as we make this bigger, notice we have our first book. And what do you see over here? We have the show info false. So what's going to happen if I'm going to click the button? Now this is going to be true. Again, false, true, false, true. So we're toggling it. Everything is working exactly like we want. So by the way, if we're going to head over back and uncomment this, just to show you that this is going to work, obviously, with the button, because in the beginning, I just showed you with changing the value in the state. And as you can see, and this is only going to be affected again where I'm clicking, since each of them are going to have their separate state. Okay. What else we have? Like I said, we would want to look at the ternary operator. That's going to be our best friend. And the way the ternary operator works, again, we're going to be checking the value. So this dot state show info. However, here we have a question mark. And now in this case, if the value is true, again, we're going to be doing the same thing where we're looking for the paragraph. And in this case, you know what? Let's write like 10 words because I think this was a little bit too much. And if the value is going to be false, I'm going to be returning null. I understand that this might look a little bit foreign to you, because we are not used to as we're working with JavaScript, but within the React, we can do it like this and say, you know what, if the value is going to be false, then just return null. And what that would mean is that as we're going to be clicking, again, we're going to be doing the same thing where we will going to be hiding our info. Okay. Now let me comment this guy out as well, just so you can see. And you know what, maybe let me add some kind of comments here. Let's say that this would be and then this is going to be ternary operator. And now let's set up the function. So this is also going to be something really interesting. Although these were also cool, but I just find the functions a little bit more cool. Okay, so I'm going to go, where's my render? Basically above the return. So I don't want to do it in return. And I'm going to set up some kind of function. So I'm going to say const, and we're going to name this check info. That's going to be the name of our function. And here we're going to be passing the info. So some kind of parameter. Again, you already can guess it that this is what we're going to be passing in. However, in this case, this is just going to be a parameter. And then now we can set up actually the if statement. Since again, this is not going to be JSX. We are working with normal JavaScript. So here I can say if info. So if info, the parameter you're passing is going to be true, then I would like to return. So I'm going to say, okay, so now give me back my JavaScript in my return. So let's say, or JSX, sorry, paragraph, lorem, I don't know, again, 10. And then if the value is going to be false, you can just say else. And again, let's return. And we're going to be returning null. That's going to be our setup. Hopefully everything looks fine here. So we have, if this is true, then whatever. But you know what? No, at some point, this is going to give me an error. And the reason for that, because I haven't set up properly the actual arrow function. So this would be my check info. What's really cool about this function that I can just run my function here. And what I'm saying here again in the function is going to be check info. And then within the function, the argument that I'm passing here for the info is going to be from the state. This dot state show, and you guessed it, show info. Again, the same situation. We have some kind of parameters since right now we're returning. So again, remember we're running this function right now since we passed it. It's not like we have passed it as a reference. We're actually running the function because we're passing the value right away. So the moment it runs, it's like, okay, this is true right now. So the true state, awesome. Then once I click it, again, it's not showing, showing, not showing, and so on and so forth. And that's how we can use the conditional rendering in the JSX.